Hello everybody, it's July 15th, 2022. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin's action over the past few days. First up, we're going to look at what I said on Monday. At the time, Bitcoin was kind of bleeding downwards and the action was awful. Nothing has changed about that. We did get a warning sign here from the bears. We had 5 waves down off the 22.1K high. And we saw 5 waves down. Now that has modified just a little bit. It actually went down a little bit further, so some of these levels are actually a little lower now. But the possibilities at the time were basically that because we saw 5 waves down, this area here, 20.7 to 21.5, would have been the typical danger zone for a corrective bounce in a second wave up before we go down more. And then, the question, if we do get that, if we get a rejection from this zone and we are getting another leg down, I don't know if we're just going to get a reset again of the other two. I think this is unlikely at this point. I'll show you why in a minute because we've come up from that level. But certainly below 18,000, we're looking at either a double bottom around 17.6 or a lower low. The alternative would be if the bulls can get above 22.1, they could turn it into a leading diagonal, and that would be the best case scenario. Now, I said at the time I was going to dump my leverage longs in that danger zone, which is basically where we are right now. I did cut. I had some leverage positions that I had gotten a little bit higher up, around 20K, so I did cut those. I have some leverage positions remaining from when we were getting the dip down into the 19K region. So I am just going to hold on to those, to be honest, for now. And I might just set break-even stops on them. I'm not sure what I'll do yet. But I'm definitely not selling out of my spot positions. At this point in time, I don't have a low time frame follow through from the bears quite yet. If I see one, then I may decide to sell some of my spot, but at this point I am holding on to all my spot accumulation that I've done. Just so that's clear. When the action is this choppy, I'm really looking for, I've got levels laid out that are typical, but I'm also looking down at 5-minute charts, 15-minute charts, etc., looking for warning signs as we progress. And as this went up here, it's still very, very choppy, but we do not yet have a 5-wave move down from here that would start us off. So if we see in the micro something that looks like this, right, 5 waves down and then a corrective pullback here, that would make me probably dump even more leverage positions and maybe some spot positions, because the expectation from that would be down further. As it currently stands, there are other factors that I'm looking at that do make me lean slightly in favor of the bulls, even though the Bitcoin chart itself is not particularly bullish right now. There are some choice alts that are doing exactly what we need to see them do. We're up 50-60% on one and 90% on another. Actually, I think maybe 100% at this point on the other one. Those alts are doing what I need them to do to prove a bottom is in, and so that kind of makes me think maybe Bitcoin isn't going to dump from here. Maybe we are just going to get choppy leading diagonal, but we're not going to get a lower low because those alt charts look so bullish. Now, if Bitcoin does decide to die, obviously that could ruin even those alt setups. But that's one reason I think I lean slightly in favor of the bulls. The other reason was back here. This was just after the video, I think. The next day, as we went down even further, it struck the RSI upward trend line on the daily, and I actually took that as an opportunity to add even more longs at that point in time to ride this bounce up here. And that, to be honest, this upwards trend line on the RSI does indicate that my scenario where this is wave 1 and then we have an expanded flat A, B, C as a wave 2 before further upside, that is a pretty strong indication that that may in fact be correct. So, just a couple things there before I get into the action on Bitcoin itself here that indicate, even though I'm warning that the bears may in fact take over, I'm not bearish yet, if that makes sense. All right, so zooming in here, I believe when I did the video, we were about here, somewhere in this region, maybe here, I don't remember exactly. And then we saw a bigger push up and a move down. And at that time, I decided to label this as a 5-wave move down a little bit further down. So I think originally I had, maybe it was up here, 3, yeah, because I think it was on the 11th. I think I had 3, 4, and 5, something like this originally on there. And then I began doubting myself, right? Because this, if we had stopped here and bounced up and then rejected, that actually would look more like a 5-wave move down and a rejection, right? But one of my scenarios was that we come back down and we test these lows again, and if we do that, it could essentially be a Y wave. And so since we ended up seeing that and then a reaction upwards, I'm still wary of this 5-wave move, of course, but it did actually, going down further like that made me a bit more bullish on it after I did the video. I know that sounds weird, but pressing downwards like this made it really, really overextended to the downside, and pushed it into that area where I was expecting it to bounce if it was going to, as a Y wave of 2. So anyway, the action off of that low now has unfortunately not been impulsive. We've not seen an impulse off the low. It looks really corrective, and so we do have to remain vigilant here. The typical danger zone is if we draw a fib downwards here for this 5-wave move, like so, and we look at the 618 to 382 area. That's this first red box that I have here. That's typical danger zone for a second wave bounce. You can see we got up right to the very top of that box. Right? The next thing I looked at then as this action developed was, how would this look as a 3-wave move up, with this being an A or a W, here's a B or an X, and then a Y wave up. And so that next red box here is the target for a typical Y wave, if this is going to be a second wave downwards before we get more blood. So as you can see, just based on the Bitcoin action, we are very much still in the danger zone based on both of those areas, all right? And 22.1 is still what we need to see break in order to eradicate the immediate bearish possibility. It doesn't necessarily mean that the bears are out completely, but that would invalidate this 5-wave move down, right? We can ignore that if we get above 22.1. So as it stands, we are still in danger. There is a possibility that this does press downwards for a new low from this level. So, need to stay on our toes. I'm going to be watching, as of right now, down on this low time frame chart. Just for a moment, I'm going to get rid of these boxes so it's a little clearer to see. But for now, I'm not seeing anything particularly worrying about this 5-minute chart, right? For whatever it's worth. If this was truly a rejection and the very tippy top before a new low, we would likely be seeing a 5-wave move down, and this is just more chop. That doesn't look like 5 waves to me. Not to say it couldn't turn into it. This could potentially, we should be able to see 5 waves within that first wave, but if we start seeing something that develops like this instead, then that would be cause to worry at that point in time. But for now, like I said, even though it's choppy, I've got other indications that the bull market is actually alive and well right now. but we do need them to, the bulls, to prove themselves for sure, in order to be more confident. So let's talk about what that means. What do the bulls actually need to do, right? So there's our danger zone. All right. So bulls, in order to prove that the bottom is in, I have to assume that the whole thing is going to take the shape of a diagonal. And so typically what we would see, that's our first wave, that would be our second wave for the bullish scenario. Typically what we would see is this third wave would probably get to about the 1.236, which is around here 24K or so. It could go higher, but that would kind of be my minimum expectation if that is going to be a third wave. Our fourth wave would then come down if it forms a normal diagonal. It would come down in a diagonal, you know, to hold the bottom channel basically, and then we'd get a fifth wave up. Something along those lines. So the action that I would expect to see if this does turn bullish would be basically this would do A, B, C up in a 3, A, B, C down in a 4, and A, B, C up in a 5. If we can get that, that also can indicate to us that the bottom is in. That is a good sign. It's not an impulse. I'd prefer an impulse, but it is still a sign that the bottom is in, and the next pullback after that would potentially be a good place to long before a larger move up. So that's what the bulls need to do. We still need to see all 5 of those waves play out, because we are still in danger of dropping lower with nothing looking impulsive except for this initial move. Right? The initial move looked okay, but since then we've had a lot of chop. So we really do need to see the bulls kicking into gear here and get up into that 24, 25K area. And even then, I mean, to be perfectly honest, because of how choppy this is, even then this can turn into a larger 3-wave move before dropping deeper, potentially again to a double bottom or something. So definitely not going to make it easy for us with the current action. So that's what I have as of right now, what I'm looking at. Not fully bearish for sure. I do lean slightly in favor of the bulls. On Monday I said, you know, I kind of dropped my probability of the bottom being in place down to about 50-50. After we saw this move here, I put it at about 70% that the bottom was in. But since we haven't gotten follow through from the bulls, and we got this 5-wave move down, I dropped it to 50-50, right? At this point, because again, not based on the Bitcoin chart, but based on other things, I'm putting that probability more back in like the 60% region, you know, leaning in favor of the bulls, but certainly something we need to keep a close eye on. All right, I think that's all I've got for Bitcoin now, and we'll see what the weekend action brings. Hopefully we don't break down any key levels. I think a breakdown below 19.5, you know, this level right here, that would probably not be a good sign. It's hard to say with this choppiness, obviously, and there's so many permutations. This could turn into a 3-wave move down and actually still reset this to, this to here before then going up further and maybe giving us an impulse. There are tons and tons of options here of what this could do. You know, the 3-wave choppy action is not something we can easily predict what's going to happen next, but for now, 60-40 in favor of the bulls, but plenty of proof that we need to see still. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, get my analysis every Monday and Friday, and get a notification when it's up. Hit the like button for me, and take a look at the suggested video as well. All right, guys, have a good one.